let's talk about the inefficiencies of contractors and the challenges you might have with your land project. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I recently did a bunch of excavation work here at the house. This caused our cable line not to be buried. Now, I had a good amount of excavation work to finish, so we left the cable line on the surface of the ground so that we could move it around while there was different digging or seeding or different types of grading work being done. Well, eventually all the grading work was done, and I called Comcast Communications. Actually, my assistant called to schedule an appointment to bury the cable. So Comcast comes out, and they asked me why did I put in a ticket. So here's the disconnect. My assistant scheduled a meeting. I ended up having to call again to schedule a meeting. Comcast came out and asked me why I called them, and I told them to bury a cable. Then they sent a truck out to bury the cable, and guess what? Well, first I noticed when they disconnected the line. I kind of had an idea when they were coming, but it's been like 4 weeks since the original interaction where I was able to contact them and schedule the first appointment. But ultimately, here's what happened. I get outside, and even though the guys have a truck and a ditch witch, they are out there with shovels burying the cable. Not only that, they were seeking to bury the cable across a high point in the ground that would have caused erosion having a cable there in the first place, but also would have been impacted by future excavation or grading. So things get worse, folks. So I walk up to the two guys and I say, hey, the cable they were burying it like an inch underground. I said, the cable needs to be buried 1 foot underground next to the gas line that was recently buried. That's why we're taking so long to bury this cable. So they don't speak English. They speak Spanish. So quickly I download Google Translate and I get it on my phone and I start explaining to them that we have a gas line here. The gas line is buried 4 foot under the ground. We need to bury the cable for cable TV 1 foot under the ground so that future excavation could be done. Now, obviously, I didn't type all that in there and chat with them. It was very piecemeal. But the one thing that I did, the lesson for you in working with contractors, is I went to the garage and I got a ditching hoe. And from the ditching hoe and the translation, I worked side by side with these individuals, and they understood what I was talking about. They went and I used hand gestures and we did some Spanish on the phone. And when they did the right stuff, I said, muy bien. Gracias, but they went and got the ditcher. See, those guys probably have 8 more jobs today, and they want to get those jobs done and get home because it was 100 degrees outside. Now, I want my job done well. So, working with them side by side, in 30 minutes, they got the ditcher out. I basically laid the line, so the old line that was there was kind of busted up a little bit from being on the ground for so long. I had them drop a new line. I laid the new line where it was supposed to be on the ground. I showed them where it was supposed to be on the ground. I used hand gestures. I kept saying 1 foot deep, 1 foot deep, except it was in Spanish, and I was using Google Translate to know what to say. Ultimately, we got the job done. I could have stood there with my hands on my hips, pissed off that these guys were rushing through a job and they were going to bury my cable TV, my internet connection 1 inch under the ground in the worst possible location. In a location that would have caused the network connection to be disconnected for future work around the rainwater capture and future work around the retaining walls and the bench terraces. I got in and worked with these guys. I was feeding cable to the ditcher. One guy was on one end setting up the line, and the other guy was on the other end burying the shallow parts that were areas that we couldn't connect. I made sure that they buried the cable behind the tree in a utility right away rather than inside on my property where there could be digging in the future or a future tree planted. I made sure that this line was buried parallel with a gas line, knowing the gas line is 4 foot underground and that the cable TV line is 1 foot under the ground. I know that there's enough clearance, but they're not one right over top of the other in case the gas line needs repaired or the cable line needs repaired for some reason, or we run some other type of line down there. I made sure that at the bottom it curved around on a slope that could be stabilized. And then I went ahead and dug out the drain pipes that were underground so that they could see exactly where the drain pipes were. I worked with them as a project manager rather than standing there complaining or being frustrated about the problem. That is what you're going to have to do in every step of your land project. There will be times where you'll need to walk out there and work with these people and get yourself dirty and get the job going. Again, it is not that these guys didn't know what they were doing. It is not that these guys wanted to do bad work. It was 100 degrees outside, and they probably had a large number of other projects to do, and they thought, hey, let's real quick just bury this cable line and move on. But you cannot accept unquality work. So they're ditching down a hill. I need that cable line a foot underground because we may have erosion. Now, I'm doing a lot of things to stop erosion, but a 1 foot depth gives me enough leeway in order to do the erosion management. My neighbor is going to sod their yard, so I know that if it's 1 foot under, we don't have to worry about the sodding machine accidentally catching it if it's an inch or two under the ground. Later, if we bring in additional soil, we can bring heavy equipment across the line because it's deep enough underground that we're not going to catch it and we're not going to have any problems. I walked up and down where the line was going to be, and I removed all the sticks or roots or other materials that were on the ground that could have caught in the ditcher. I made sure that it was clear and there were some lines on the ground so that they could follow the lines and move through carefully. Again, I was feeding the line to the ditcher. The other guy ran out to the truck to get another piece of equipment, and they're setting up the connection. All three of us were working. And in 30 minutes, we got the line buried to specification, even though we could not clearly understand each other. They didn't understand English very well. I don't speak Spanish very well. And we were able, through Google Translate, and by the way, they had on their phone translators as well, and we were able to quickly talk back and forth a conversation using our smart devices to get the job done. That's the number one result, is to get the job done. See, those guys want to get that job done, and they want to get it done quickly. And if I'm out there helping them and honestly being helpful, they're not going to cut corners. Plus, I'm watching them to make sure they're not cutting corners. Now, there are some other things that I did that are very useful for me in the future. For example, as they buried the line is now in the ground. I spray marked the where the cable's located, and then I photographed 2 reference points. One reference point in the near me in the picture, and one reference point that's on the other side in the picture. So immovable points, so we can line up in between that and know exactly what the cable is. Took reference pictures from the garage to where the cable's located and to where the underground drains were located, because I actually did not know where the underground drains were located. I had to go out there and find that. I thanked these guys. Worked with them. I shook their hand and said, thank you for doing work, because I'm sincerely thankful that they finally got out and buried the cable. Between my assistant, myself, the cable guys coming out and asking me about what's going on, Miss Utility, this simple job of just burying a cable turned out to be a huge adventure. But the good news is I got a brand new cable buried underground far enough that I don't have to worry about erosion issues. I don't have to worry about solar impact. Solar radiation can mess up your cable line. I don't have to worry about it getting dug up by the neighbor who's putting in a retaining wall. I don't have to worry about me digging it up on accident later when we're doing maintenance or changes to the bench terraces. So, folks, you're going to have these opportunities no matter how big and how small. In this case, was supposed to be on a conference call, and I had another meeting in 40 minutes. So I busted out. Now, I didn't even have lunch today, but I busted out there to make sure the job got done, and we moved forward with it. So that's my tip for today on managing land projects. If you've got a large land project, which could include a land clearing, it could include retaining wall replacement, grading, maybe you're putting in swales or an orchard area, you're going to want to click the link below and ask your questions about managing land projects. I'm putting together a program that walks you through the steps that are necessary to do large land projects at a significant lower rate and to get a better job done. In fact, I was my own general contractor for a large project here that cleared 2 acres of land, replaced the retaining wall, and did some other work. And it's really not that hard to do. Now, if you're a licensed landscaper, excavation company, or a permaculture design consultant, this is especially important for you because you can help your clients do these projects and get them done the right way. Running the cable across the top of the ground on high points in the yard, burying it so shallow, I would have had nothing but problems with that cable. I would have had to call Comcast to come out and check it because the signal would have failed. I would have had nothing but problems. And the same thing goes with the excavation work that was being done. And a lot of contractors don't want you out there helping. It's a liability. So you have to be able to be mindful of that. We talk about that in the program. But ultimately, if the job doesn't get done right, you're the one that gets screwed. This is how you get the jobs done right. This is how you get land cleared and turn it into a field instead of a mess of rubble and scrap wood. This is how you solve erosion problems. This is how you get it done. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. If you have any questions about this or any other program, simply visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Thanks for listening.